Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, where we explore everything from that weird feeling in your stomach after questionable takeout to the deeper intricacies of the human body that modern science occasionally forgets. I'm Ethan Foster, your faithful chronicler of curious human behaviors and a proud devotee of dry humor.
And I'm Alara Sky, your resident lightning brain who can't resist turning every topic, no matter how serious, into a stand-up set. I promise to keep it both enlightening and slightly irreverent.
Today, we're venturing into the depths of our gut. And, before anyone panics, that's the gut inside your abdomen, not the gut feeling you get when your boss calls an unexpected meeting on a Friday. We're talking about the microbiome, the beneficial bacteria, the potential intruders, and everything in between.
You know, if the gut really is the cornerstone of our health, I'm guessing that corner is in desperate need of renovation. Thanks to modern living, processed foods, environmental toxins, frantic city life, our gut might be more like a dilapidated shack than the sturdy foundation it's supposed to be.
That's a pretty grim architectural metaphor, but I see your point. So let's set the stage. If we look at the wisdom of Dr. Mercola, and by extension functional medicine experts like Dr. Vincent Pedre, gut health is that big essential puzzle piece. You can't just ignore it.
Well, you could ignore it, but eventually it will call for your attention in some spectacular, gut-wrenching fashion. And by spectacular, I mean you'll find yourself Googling weird symptoms at 2 a.m.
Precisely. It might start with a stomach ache or a bout of indigestion. But as we learn more, it's connected to your immune system, your skin, your brain, and who knows, maybe even your ability to make decent jokes.
Now that's taking it too far, Ethan. My humor is bulletproof, but I concede that mental clarity and emotional well-being can be impacted by our gut. The so-called gut-brain axis is real, and that means the colony of bacteria living in our large intestine is basically calling the shots.
So let's talk about that. Most of us have heard about probiotics and friendly bacteria, but I'm not sure the average person understands the delicate balance that keeps these beneficial microbes alive and well.
Right. Our colon's environment is supposed to be a place with little to no oxygen. Apparently, oxygen and beneficial bacteria go together about as well as fish and bicycles. Pathogenic bacteria can survive with oxygen, but the beneficial ones are strictly anaerobic. They're from the primordial era, back when Earth had virtually no oxygen, so oxygen is basically the kryptonite for good gut bugs.
Which means if something compromises that low oxygen environment, poor mitochondrial function, leaky gut, or a career as a balloon inflator, beneficial bacteria start to lose their turf to the troublemakers.
As comedic as the image of a balloon inflator is, that's actually not the leading cause of gut imbalance. The bigger culprits are antibiotics and so-called mitochondrial poisons, which range from certain environmental toxins to even certain dietary habits. Over time, these can wipe out the good guys and let the villains rule the microbiome roost.
Speaking of antibiotics, Dr. Pedre's personal story is quite a cautionary tale. He grew up on a diet of processed foods, pasta, sugary cereals, refined bread, plus frequent courses of antibiotics for sinus and throat infections. By 19, he'd been on more than 20 rounds, which is a guaranteed recipe for demolishing beneficial bacteria.
Let's take a moment to appreciate how that sets someone up for everything from chronic sensitivities, like wheat and dairy, to bigger issues like autoimmune disorders or serious inflammation. It really illustrates how critical those good gut microbes are.
Right, and once the beneficial bacteria are gone, it's not like the body just bounces back on its own. This is the foundation of functional medicine thinking. Everything is interlinked. If you wipe out beneficial bacteria and set the stage for pathogens, you can get anything from IBS to fuzzy brain, depressed mood, and beyond.
Which begs the question, why aren't we all walking around hugging our guts, whispering sweet nothings to our colon, and slapping the hands of anyone who tries to feed us processed junk?
Part of it is cultural. We live in a world of quick fixes, and here, take this antibiotic is often easier than a more nuanced approach. Meanwhile, factors like diet are overlooked because no one got rich telling you to eat less junk food.
Actually, some people do get rich telling you to eat less junk food, but that's a story for another day. Let's pivot to something more positive, the concept of a healthy microbiome and what we can learn from groups like the Hadza in Africa.
Right? The Hadza are one of the last true hunter-gatherer tribes, and they have unbelievably robust microbiome diversity. They don't suffer from the chronic diseases that plague the Western world. No obesity epidemics, no heart disease in the sense we see it, no diabetes.
And part of that is because they eat primarily wild berries, tubers, and lean meats. They're also out in nature, in the dirt, playing with microbes that haven't been refined into extinction.
Meanwhile, we live in sanitized environments, use antibacterial everything, and eat diets loaded with seed oils like linoleic acid. Too much LA is not a friend to the gut. It's inflammatory and apparently detrimental to your mitochondria as well.
If you think of the gut as a party, LA is that guest who shows up, drinks all the punch, breaks a vase, and leaves the place in shambles. Yet so many foods sold in grocery stores contain it in spades.
That's an oddly perfect metaphor. But let's circle back to the beneficial versus pathogenic bacteria dynamic, As we know, beneficial bacteria need a low oxygen environment. When your colon's integrity is compromised and oxygen leaks in, that feeds the bacteria that shouldn't be the main act.
Right, so once pathogens take over, you get more inflammation, more damage, and you're basically in a downward spiral. Dr. Mercola points out that if your gut lining is compromised, not only can oxygen seep into the colon, but also foreign proteins can sneak into your bloodstream. Hello, more inflammation.
And thus, dysbiosis is born, which is basically a fancy term for your gut bacteria are out of whack. You can throw all the probiotics you want at the situation, but if you haven't fixed the environment in the colon, you're just flinging seeds onto concrete.
Precisely. That's why both Dr. Mercola and Dr. Pedre emphasize a holistic approach. You can't just say, I'll take a probiotic and hope for the best. You have to restore gut lining integrity, fix mitochondrial function, remove stressors, and yes, watch your diet.
Which segues into the discussion about diets like low carb or even carnivore. These can, in some cases, starve out certain pathogenic bacteria because you're denying them a major fuel source.
But it's not a forever thing. Too little carbohydrate for too long can strain your body, rising cortisol, potential muscle wasting. So it might be a good short-term strategy to let the gut heal, but eventually, you want a varied diet that includes carbs for healthy mitochondrial function.
That's where Dr. Mercola's approach with simple carbs like dextrose water for those severely ill can come in. By absorbing quickly in the small intestine, it doesn't feed the bacteria in the large intestine, thus reducing endotoxin production.
That's definitely an unconventional approach. But as Dr. Mercola explains, for some folks who can't tolerate fiber or complex carbs without severe symptoms, it might be a stepping stone to regaining gut function.
Most of us aren't in that extreme category, though. For many, just cutting back on processed garbage and focusing on foods that don't irritate the gut will be enough to start the healing process.
And once your gut is on the mend, you can reintroduce fiber-rich veggies, legumes, or starches without sending your colon into an all-out riot.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about supplementation. Butyrate is a big one. It's a short-chain fatty acid that's basically food for the cells lining your colon, also known as colonocytes.
Dr. Pedre even uses butyrate enemas for severe cases of ulcerative colitis. That's a level of dedication that definitely says, I take my gut health seriously. Oral butyrate might help too, but you have to make sure it reaches the colon.
Dr. Mercola mentioned he's working on advanced delivery systems so the butyrate doesn't break down too soon. Also, pomegranate extract and citrus bioflavonoids can help rebuild the mucus layer.
It's a refreshing change from the usual suspects like random prebiotics or fiber powders that bloat you up like a balloon if your gut is already compromised. Polyphenols in pomegranate and citrus are gentler options.
Then there's the quest to find probiotic strains that actually make it to the colon alive. Most standard probiotics never stand a chance. They're wiped out by oxygen in the small intestine or killed off by stomach acid.
That's why you see innovations like delayed-release capsules designed to break down later, hopefully in the large intestine, where those beneficial bacteria can set up camp.
We also have to address conditions like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and SIFO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth. These can get complicated because if a doctor prescribes something like rifaximin for SIBO, you could inadvertently cause fungal overgrowth.
It's like a game of microbial whack-a-mole. You knock down the bacteria, but the fungi pop up. Then you whack the fungi, and something else emerges. That's why a holistic plan that addresses the entire gut environment is crucial.
Let's not forget stress management. Stress basically tells your body to switch to fight or flight. That's not exactly conducive to peacefully digesting a kale salad or regenerating your gut lining.
Chronic stress can sabotage all the best diets and supplements. Our gut is intimately tied to our emotional state, which explains why some people get nervous diarrhea or stress-induced stomach aches.
Dr. Pedre recommends breath work, but not the kind that lowers your CO2 levels too much. Slow, shallow breathing helps keep CO2 in your system, which can optimize oxygen delivery.
Right. Because ironically, if you hyperventilate, you might lower CO2 to a point where oxygen isn't dropped off as efficiently in tissues. The science behind this is fascinating, but we'll keep it comedic. No one wants to be the person who's so stressed they end up hyperventilating into a paper bag at a dinner party.
That would definitely put a damper on the mood. Another angle for stress relief is simply engaging in an activity you lose yourself in, playing an instrument, painting, knitting cat sweaters, something that takes you into that flow state.
Right. Hobbies can actually be a gut health strategy. I'll have to explain that to my family the next time they raise an eyebrow at my hour-long doodle sessions.
Now, aside from stress, environmental toxins also play a huge role. Microplastics, endocrine disruptors, glyphosate, all these can wreak havoc on the gut.
The plastic water bottle you left in your hot car all day might be leaching chemicals that pretend to be estrogen, messing with your metabolic and gut functions.
Not to mention EMFs, electromagnetic fields from our countless devices. There's an argument they can also compromise mitochondrial health.
It's like we live in a world that's actively trying to sabotage our beneficial bacteria. This is why Dr. Mercola consistently recommends using glass or stainless steel instead of plastic, choosing organic produce, and taking steps to reduce exposure to EMFs.
All these are building blocks for a holistic gut health approach. Correct your diet, manage stress, avoid toxins, support beneficial bacteria, and give your mitochondria a chance to do their job.
Speaking of mitochondria, Dr. Mercola emphasizes them not just for gut health, but for overall vitality. If your cells can't make enough energy, everything goes downhill. This is central to the concept of cellular wisdom.
His book, Your Guide to Cellular Health, Unlocking the Science of Longevity and Joy, delves into how compromised mitochondrial function leads to leaks in our gut barrier, among other issues. It's all connected.
The more I listen to that line, it's all connected, the more I realize it's not just a cliche, it's literally the functional medicine motto. You can't just look at one system in isolation.
And the big question is, how do we put this knowledge to use? Dr. Mercola suggests new, more affordable tests on the horizon that will identify key beneficial bacteria. That way, you can tailor your interventions more precisely.
Which is great. Because right now, a lot of people just guess, well, maybe I need more lactobacilli. Let me buy a random probiotic. This is akin to throwing darts in the dark.
If advanced testing can tell you exactly which beneficial bacteria you're missing, you can then repopulate your gut with a plan instead of a blind guess.
Exactly. And that might make the difference between mild improvements and truly transformative change.
So, if we want to distill it down, your gut is the meeting ground for your immune system, your brain, your hormones, and your stress response. Keep it healthy, or watch everything else unravel.
And the best part is, it's not rocket science, though it can feel that way at times. Eat real food, avoid what we know to be toxic, seed oils, microplastics, environmental chemicals. Keep stress in check, or at least better managed.
Then, reintroduce carbs strategically so your mitochondria don't think you've abandoned them in some low-carb desert.
We can't forget that solutions are seldom one-size-fits-all. Some folks will do better with certain strategies than others. That's why Dr. Pedre's story is so instructive. He had a unique journey. Loads of antibiotics, poor early diet, resulting issues. He found his path to healing, and now he helps patients do the same.
While Dr. Mercola provides the overarching principle, fix your mitochondria, protect your gut barrier, and feed your beneficial bacteria in a way that supports their growth without fueling the pathogens.
It's like being the bouncer at a nightclub. Good bacteria. Right this way. Pathogens. Sorry, you're on the no-fly list. And you might have to do a little remodeling to keep the place oxygen-free for the beneficial microbes.
If only we could physically see the transformations happening, though I guess we should be grateful our bodies do most of this behind closed doors.
True. A front-row seat to bacterial warfare might be less pleasant than we imagine.
Indeed. Let's address SIBO and SIFO once more. These are particularly challenging because many doctors treat bacterial overgrowth without realizing there's a fungal piece at play. Then, the patient never fully recovers.
Hence the importance of a comprehensive approach. In functional medicine, you test not just for bacterial imbalances, but also for fungal issues. Then you treat both if needed.
It might require prescription antifungals combined with herbal protocols. Meanwhile, you support beneficial bacteria and improve gut motility, so these critters aren't just sitting around, colonizing the small intestine.
Right. And I suspect stress is a factor there too. When you're in fight or flight mode, digestion slows, your gut might not move waste as efficiently, and that can set you up for overgrowths in the small intestine.
I do love how you always manage to tie stress into everything, although I suppose it's fair. Stress is the hidden saboteur in most chronic conditions.
Precisely. If you're constantly on edge, your body is braced for a tiger attack, not digesting the salad you ate for lunch. Over time, that has consequences.
All roads seem to lead back to the same place. Take a breath, be mindful, watch what you eat, and respect the microbes that outnumber your human cells.
It's humbling, isn't it? We're basically walking microbial communities who occasionally pretend we're fully in charge.
Right, but the truth is, if your microbial tenants decide they're unhappy, it's tough to evict them. Best approach, keep them happy from the start.
So let's talk practical tips in a comedic but informative way. First, cut out the junk. That might mean limiting or avoiding that daily bag of chips.
Or that triple seed oil laden pastry you pretend is healthy because it has a few blueberry flecks.
Exactly. Then, think about your cooking oils. Seed oils loaded with LA are everywhere. Switch to healthier fats, maybe some butter from grass-fed cows or coconut oil if that suits you.
Next, consider an initial period of a gut-friendly diet. Some go low-carb, some do a carnivore phase. But remember, it's generally not meant for life. It's to give your gut a vacation from the bloat-inducing molecules.
Then, reintroduce foods slowly. Observe how your body reacts. This is part of that functional medicine approach. Be in tune with your signals.
Exactly. Then, if needed, incorporate targeted supplementation. Butyrate, pomegranate extract, citrus bioflavonoids. Possibly the right kind of probiotic if you can find a brand that ensures survival to the colon.
Avoid what we call junk probiotics. Read labels, ask questions, or consult resources that actually test these things.
And while you're at it, keep an eye on your environment. If you're drinking from plastic bottles that have been roasting in your car for weeks, that's probably not ideal.
Also consider filtering your water so you're not ingesting a chemical cocktail. And if possible, reduce your EMF exposure. Maybe don't sleep with your phone under your pillow.
Then there's stress. We can't say it enough. Do some breath work, do an activity you love, or find something that puts you in that zone of timelessness.
For me, it's reading. For someone else, it might be crocheting hats for hairless guinea pigs. Whatever floats your boat.
Ultimately, gut health is about synergy. The sum of good choices in diet, lifestyle, environment, and mental well-being leads to better microbial balance.
And once your gut is happy, your immune function improves, mental clarity goes up, and you might even glow a little brighter.
Glow might be an exaggeration, but yes, you'll likely feel better. All right, Alara, any final comedic reflection on the importance of gut health before we wrap this up?
Just that we should remember these microorganisms are our lifelong roommates. Treat them well, and they'll help keep your brain sharp, your mood stable, and your waistline in check. Treat them badly, and you'll probably know it in the most uncomfortable of ways.
Well said. And with that, dear listeners, we conclude this deep dive into Dr. Mercola's cellular wisdom on gut health. Thank you for joining us on this comedic and hopefully enlightening journey into the core of human well-being.
Until next time, nourish those microbes, keep your stress in line, and consider that your gut might just be smarter than you think. Be good to it, and it'll be good to you.
We've been Ethan Foster
And Alara Sky. Thanks for tuning in to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay curious, stay healthy, and maybe skip that questionable drive-thru next time.
Indeed. We'll catch you on the next episode. Safe travels through the microbial universe that is your body. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.